But then he tells Venkman, so what you see here represents the last of the petty cash. Oh, we're rolling. Oh, crap. So today we were going to sit down and we're going to go through the 2 in the box. Or actually, I know some folks who can handle this better. Guys?
2 in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and they be slow.
All right, thank you. So the 2 in the box.
2 in the box!
That's enough. Without further ado, I'm just going to get into this. So my plan is I want to dismantle this for the first time. And of course, part of that being I want to know how it works. But also I feel the challenge has been set. Several people asked, so are you going to take apart your trap and PKE as soon as you get it? And I'm like...
Is the atomic weight of cobalt 58.9?
Yeah. It's my toy. I want to play with it how I feel, and that's what I want to do with it.
We had part of a slinky, but I straightened it.
So to state the obvious, this is going to void your warranty. So let's just roll the disclaimers. All right, thanks. That ought to do it, Ray. You are on your own taking this apart, but hopefully we can do this the right way. So I will try my best to show 2 angles, and we'll go through some of the tools that might be needed. We'll kind of make this up as we go along. If we encounter any problems, bear with me. And yeah, let's see what we can do. All right, I think what might be best is to start with the trap pedal because most of the screws are pretty much accessible right here on the bottom. We'll move to the trap second. My main concern right now is try to find something that matches to the various screw holes on here. Got a couple different size Phillips head. Actually, this one looks like it fits quite well. The other thing I need to do is for the trap pedal, the bottom feet are actually hiding 2 screws. That's one part that I have heard about already. And yeah, that is, oh, actually that might, okay. All right, so I'm using a putty knife. Okay, that actually came up pretty well. So actually, let's see. Okay, so that turns by hand. So what I'm going to do is, let's try just a flathead screwdriver now. I'm doing this probably not the greatest of ways because I could be jamming this into my finger unintentionally. Okay, so if I put this right on the edge and just start sort of working it up, I've got enough of a lip underneath this part. See how it's got this little ridge around the edge? As soon as you get up enough of this, you can put the screwdriver up underneath and you can get access. Okay, well that's easy enough, and yes, as advertised, the 2 screws are right there. All right, so this is a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm looking to see if there's actually any markings on it to say what size it is. No, it is from some unnamed kit that I've actually had for quite a while. It happens to be the one that also works just perfectly well with the Haslab proton pack for getting in some of those deeper recesses. All right, so as you start removing screws, I'm going to make a suggestion. Go to your grocery store and get some of these condiment cups. Why these? Put the screw in it. Put a lid on it. So when you're done taking all the screws out, my guess is these are all going to be the same size. Yeah. So they're all probably going to be a uniform size. Take them out of one device, put them in a cup. Label the cup with a Sharpie. Put the lid on it. That way you don't knock the screws onto the floor and lose one of them. And I may not be doing exposition during all the disassembly, but I will note that if I can speed some of the video up in post, I will. Otherwise, I will just try to talk through what I'm doing. Actually, let's see here. Pop this open. All right, it's prying up just fine. There we go. All right, so what I did was I kind of put my finger right here where there's a piece, a molded piece that covers up one of the wires coming out. Same with down here. And that came off pretty easily. Perfect. Yep, and there we go. There's the metal 1/4-20 screw thread on the inside. And here's our first look at the inside. As expected, there's our switch. Okay, I see now. So what they're doing is they're not actually pressing down directly on a switch. What they're using is they have a long arm coming off the bottom of this pedal. Oops. Okay, the acorn nut is fake, and that just fell right out. So what they're doing is this little arm comes through, and it just brushes against the momentary switch here. So it's not that you're actually pressing directly down on a switch. You're just sort of brushing past it. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I can hear it doing that. And it looks like the wires are definitely some sort of a plastic, maybe a silicone. And so they just poke through right here. You can see RBY, so red, black, yellow. So just in case you lose track of what's what. All right, and okay, this is useful. So it would appear from the 3-pin connector, comes in, goes to what looks like a JST-XH connector. That looks like the 2.54 millimeter connector. That pops right off. So that brings 5 volts in, along with ground, and this yellow would probably most likely be the signal wire. Now for purposes, oh, that's easy. I think in one of the videos, these screws might actually be real. Yeah, they are. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna dismantle this further because my intent is to also repaint mine. So I might as well use this opportunity to take all the components off, or take everything apart. And I'm doing this on camera, so hopefully I'll remember. All right, so there's the internal part for the left project box. So that, I'll set that aside. Let's see, is this the same idea here? Does this pop out? Yes. Okay, so the right project box is the same way. So let's just go ahead and take these screws out. And so far, all of these look to be uniform, which is great. So it's not like we have to remember exact placement. We just have to keep track of them all. So again, throw all your screws in a little condiment cup, label it, and put the lid on it. So let's take this apart. And this just pries right up with my fingers. Not a problem. All right. And then this will let me go back and then take off these stock labels, repaint, and take off the fake rub and buff here that Hasbro used. And what I'll do is I'll repaint with actual silver paint, put some chips on it, or put some latex paint on it to make my worn corners, and then I'll spray paint the whole thing black again. And then I'll rub off the latex, and that'll reveal the actual metal. And that'll look a lot better. And I'll take these labels off, and I'll plan to either reprint or buy some dry rub labels later. Let's see what else we got. Okay, this guy comes off. This might be glued together. Yeah, that might be glued together, so I think it's probably best to just weather that manually. And let's see, there's one little screw there. All right, so it looks like pretty much anything on the outside is a black screw. One of these little black screws. And then pretty much everything on the inside is the silver-headed screws. So I'm just going to throw them all in the same cup, knowing that they all seem to conform. And there are 2 screws here, which appear to be holding on this faux serial connector. Yep, there we go. Perfect. And I think I want to get the pedal off first, and then I can pull these wires. So let's see, what can we do here? There is a screw on the bottom of this, bottom of the pedal. Okay. I think when you take the screw out of the bottom of the pedal, oh, I think I just found my first difference. All right, let's make note of this. Okay, so the bottom of the pedal, right here in the dead center, had a screw in it. This silver screw looks a little larger and a little longer than the others. So you see we have 2 different sizes of screws. So the little one was used for the serial connector. This one larger screw was used for this little foot that seems to most likely be a retaining clip for the pedal. Yeah, because as soon as I took it out, the rubber boot on the other sides wanted to spring up. All right, so let's see, what can we do here? We've got, it looks like we've got this rubber boot. I don't want to rip it, but I also am not very fond of it. I may find a replacement for it later, but for now, let's see, is there a way that I can pry this out without damaging? Maybe not. I think I might have to... All right, so there is a hinge here that looks like it just has a single pin running through it. So let's see, what can we do? I've got a tiny hammer, and I've got, I want something to hammer against. See if that works. All right. So I've got some 1, 2, 3 blocks. If you're a fan of Adam Savage's shop, you've seen him use those. They're a little machinist block. And maybe I don't want to use the screwdriver. Let me, what can I use to take, I want to take the pin out of the hinge. What I can see is on this side, the end of the pin is knurled. There's also a little bit of knurling on this end, so my guess is trying to figure out, are those real? Is the hinge real or is it fake? It looks like it's fake. It might be molded in. Yeah, it's just painted silver, but it's unfortunately molded into the plastic of the foot plate here. All right, well, that's disappointing. All right, so somehow we need to get that pin extracted. I think that if I can get it pushed through enough, I can grab it with some pliers and pull it the rest of the way. So I'm going to start from the left-hand side and push it to the right, because this looks incredibly knurled. This side, not so much. So I might have an easier time pushing it that way. So let me get I'm going to get a finishing nail. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I just got a little finishing nail. because I'd rather, if this gets dull or bent, I don't care. But I'm going to care if one of my small screwdrivers gets bent. Let's see, are you moving? All right, let me come back. Let me come back to the hinge. Let's work on this banjo connector. That comes off easily enough. Oh, that actually feels, it feels like it's some sort of metal. It's cold. That's interesting. Is this one? Maybe this one is too. Yeah, those are... Okay, so these are not exactly plastic. They do feel like they're metal. So I'm wondering, it might be possible. I might try and take a little... Let's see. If I take a file to the underside here. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's the good news. Yeah. The banjo connector is actually metal. I can see the silver underneath, right there on the edge. So yeah, these could be sanded down and repainted. Maybe more of an actual brass color than this faux gold-looking crap that they used. Yeah, so that's actually kind of promising. I'm surprised. Let's see, what else? Let's take the octal relay off. So you would do this if you were wanting to switch this to afterlife mode or afterlife style, which I probably will. All right, so let's see. So those are obviously the same size screw. Okay, so these top screws that are used for the octal relay are the same size and length as what was used for the banjo connector. So that's good. And this guy, yeah, he has real screws underneath. So it should be possible to take this apart, and if you don't like the plasticky look on the inside, that could be repainted. More of these off. Taking off the second. This is the octal relay cover. All right, and that's metal too. Okay, so the octal relay and the plate are both metal. Good job, Hasbro. All right, and then let's see. So it looks like for the LED assembly, that is really just, it's two small silver screws. And those look to be similar. What was the other? I've already forgotten. All right, so those are similar in size and shape. The two other items that I took out, what did I take out? What did I take out? All right, I've already forgotten, so I'll have to go back and look at the video to see what did I remove that was also the same shape as a small silver screws. But at least I know, relatively small. Should be only a few places where that might be used. Okay, so the LED here, yeah, that is just a straight up plain old, my guess is white LED. So that could be easily replaced. This wire coming off of here could be connected to a Arclight cover with a regular LED in it. I don't think that should be too hard. Oh, they may have glued this one in, maybe. Because remember, this thing really needs to stay put because you need to brush against this little momentary switch when the pedal is depressed. All right, I'm not sure how to get this out of here. Let's see if we can pry it from the side, maybe? Oh, I just bent something. I bent something, but maybe it's not necessary. All right, so be careful when you are in here. Okay, so a small screwdriver up under this circuit board will lift it out. Now, you shouldn't need to lift this out. I'm doing it because I just want to take out all of the electronics. And I'm going to look at these a little closer. So one of the things I want to see is, actually, let's do that. Let's get the multimeter while we're here, and we'll see what goes to what. So remember, we had 3 wires coming in. Should be from ground, power, and let's see. Ground, power, and signal. Confirmed. All right, so when I put the probe on the pin that would be the signal line, which was all the way to the right, and I put it on the positive, which is all the way to the left, when I make contact here, it appears that the foot pedal sends a high signal back to the trap. So that's how it knows that the trap has been triggered. So it doesn't pull it low to ground as I would have thought. It does in fact pull it high. That is interesting. Let's see, pliers. We need... I think this avionics connector may actually be a true... Yep, that's correct. All right, so I just grabbed some needle nose pliers, and I'm just turning the nut on the back of this thing. And there it goes. All right, the good news is I got the nut and the slip ring off. Okay, I'm trying to see, can I pry this up? Yeah, maybe. Okay, so what they did was this connector is just wedged in. So it's a friction fit on one side, and then they use the nut and split washer on the other side. All right, and then there is markings on this. There is a 1, 2, and 3 faintly marked in the plastic. It's molded in. So let me recount this for everyone, including myself. It looks like pin 1 is plus, that would be the positive power. Number 2 is the middle. That's the one at the bottom. That is ground. And socket 3 is the signal wire. Yes, definitely the signal wire. Okay, so there we go. So 1 is power, 2 is ground, 3 is signal. So we should expect to find the exact same thing in the trap, the exact same setup. So if you're building a connector of your own, just remember that. The pin 1 is power, pin 2 is ground, pin 3 is signal. All right, we're back to this guy. How do we get him off? So I see 2 rings. There's one down here, which I can't tell if that's molded in or not. It might not be. Yeah, I think those are real screws. There are definitely 4 4 screws on each side. So I think this rubber boot is probably, these are probably flanges that hold the rubber boot over something, which is why it is not pulling loose. Let's see, so how would we take this apart without ripping the boot? That's a good question. I really wish I could get this, if I could get this hinge apart, that would let me disassemble it. But it's molded on in both. So this part, the end pieces are molded to the pedal. The base center is molded to the base plate. All right. Well, let's try taking some of these screws out and see if maybe it releases just enough of the boot that we can get it apart. Okay. So yeah, this is the problem. I can get to 3 out of 4 of the screws, at least on the bottom. I can't get to the 4th one because it's pretty much dead center under this thing. Now I've got 2 different kinds of 90-degree screwdrivers, but those are not going to work here because they just won't get in that far. Well, I could try something here. We can try using a small, let's see, does this bit fit? Yes, it does. All right, so I'm going to try to place this bit into the screw and then turn it with this pair of pliers. All right, so what I'm doing is I basically put the bit in the top of the screw, holding it with my index finger on my left hand, and then using the pliers to grip the bit and turn it. This is not easy. This is the kind of stuff I do live for. There we go. I got it. Okay. Okay. This makes perfect sense now. Okay. So 1, we've got a spring. So they actually use the spring to return the pedal back to its upright position. So if you do the Charlesworth Dynamics pedal, that one seems to just use the rigidity of the boot to return it. So they use a spring, probably because this rubber is really quite thin. All right, let's get the screw at it. Okay. All right, screws out. Let's get the 4 screws out of the top. By the way, all 4 of these screws look like they are the same from the bottom and other exterior parts of the pedal. They're all the same size. They're all black. They're basically a coarse thread plastic screw. Coarse thread metal screw being used to go into plastic. So that goes, I should mention, when you go to put this back together, don't force these because these are designed to bite into the plastic and they can strip out the plastic, and at that point there's no saving the screw boss that they go into. All right, so, oh, interesting. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, you could not pull this out if you even wanted to, at least not without removing the screws. There is little They're little plastic pins, and the rubber boot is perforated around the edges so that it actually hooks on to these little posts. So it would appear that no matter what, this boot is meant to stay on. Yeah. So I'm glad I went the route of trying to remove the screws as opposed to trying to pull on the boot, because I definitely would have ripped it. Yeah, you can see that inside the edge there's little perforations and little plastic coming up. So good job, Hasbro. You made that an absolute pain in the arse, but it's in there. Okay, so let's get the wonder if we can remove these without breaking them. This might not be as possible. Yeah, so I'm thinking that all of these have a little plastic lip on the edge. It's going to keep them from getting pulled off of whatever they are attached to. So from the underside, they are in there good. Let's see. Let's see if there's any way I can push it through from the back side. Maybe not. Sorry, I'm gonna have to go slightly off camera for this. If I can just get part of it through. Yep, there we go. All right, so I chewed into that a little bit, but it did come free. So let's try that again. It scares the crap out of me, especially when I'm in the middle of something. All right, so let's try the black wire, faux wire, anyways. Yeah, actually, I may replace these, so I'm not too torn that I might be damaging them. Oop, okay, I ripped that one totally. The end came off of that. All right. Probably be some hot glue to the rescue when I go to assemble this later. All right, let's see if I can do better with the red. Okay, this time what I'm going to try to do is see if I can sort of squeeze there. Yeah, that's better. All right. So the best way to get these out is, like I was doing here, put it on the edge of the table. So I'm sort of bracing between my chest and the table so this stays on here. I'm pulling down, but then I'm sort of working my way around the edge, just twisting the screwdriver, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to force this little ridge into the center so that it gets pulled through. So the red came out the best because I figured out the pattern. And there we go. So we've mostly got it down to just this goddamn hinge. Yeah, I'm not sure of the best way to get this thing out other than just striking it. I really don't want to do that. I'm worried about cracking the plastic, but let's see if I can do it. So I'm going to try this a different way. Instead of putting the point on the hinge, I'm going to put the top of the nail on top of the hinge. Oh, that's it. We got it. We got it. All right, there. Yep, as advertised, there's knurling on the end of the pin. This is the exact same problem, or same style of issue with the neutrona wand. There was a pin at the end of the barrel that was keeping the whole damn thing in, and you would have to hammer it through. Yep, there it goes. Yep, there we go. All right, so let me try to strike this through. I can't. All right, so let me... All right, so the answer is it does get hammered through. I really didn't want to do that, but there it goes. Hinge is out. And what in the hell just fell out? Oh, hang on. Oh, okay. I just figured it out. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so if this little piece falls out, it looks like it was purposefully cut right here. There's a screw boss here and here. The top of this one was cut out, and now it makes sense. The octal relay, when you mount it to the front piece here, has nothing to grip when the screws go through. So what they did was they made this insert, which just gets forced up in behind the front opening for the Afterlife style octal relay. There's a little track that it looks like it rides in, and it just sits up there. Now you've got something for the screws to bite into. Okay. There. Okay, mystery solved. I was like, where did this come from? It fell out when I started hitting the hinge. Now that makes sense. Because it looks like the only place where they actually have, like, there's a closed screw boss. There. All of them are here. They all point up. They're all vertical. So it looks like they can't do one horizontal. Oh, injection molding. Because of the injection molding, they can't have something going horizontal. They'd never be able to pull it out of the mold. Ah, that makes sense. Okay. Good job. All right, so they just mold a piece with the vertical screw boss and slot it in. Great. All right. So that is it. That's the trap pedal fully disassembled. It's really just three major parts. The bellows assembly, the left and right project box panels, your serial connectors and ribbon cable on the ends, and really this is it for the electronics inside. I'm going to end this segment of the video, and when I come back through the magic of editing, it'll just be a blip. We will start disassembling the trap. But for now, let me just put this aside. All right. All right, so there's the trap pedal that's disassembled. And remember, like I said, condiment container. And we're gonna put a label your work. All right, there we go. Now I shouldn't lose those, and I've got some more little containers for the trap, and I'll use one for the interior cartridge and for the exterior. All right, so we'll call this call an end to the pedal and move to the trap next. we're going to work on the trap next. So without further ado, remove your cartridge. I think we'll start with this. Before we go any further, if you've put batteries into your device, let's go ahead and take them out, just so we don't do any damage to the electronics as we disconnect things. All right, so let's take a look here. So Hasbro at least did us a solid, and instead of doing complete fills of the screw ports, they look like they put in some sort of little plugs. Except how to get these plugs out is the question. How big are they? Well, they are not even big enough for a standard finishing nail. Oh, just barely. Oh, just barely. Okay, let's see. This is where I answer some of the questions that I've raised, which is, how are these held in there? I am bending a nail trying to pry these suckers out. All right, so the answer is they're not going to pry out. That does not seem possible. So then the next question is, what can I do to remove them? Well, I can't exactly fit a screwdriver in here, or can I? I think that's just going to be more of a pain in the ass. Okay, so I can't pry them out. I can't fit a decent sized screwdriver through. I'm going to guess that they are probably using similar size screws that we saw already in dismantling the trap pedal. In which case, they are probably much larger than one of these little screwdrivers. I probably need to use this Phillips head. So that brings us down to, do we drill it out? So we could do that. Keep turning it. 3/16. There it goes. Okay. So let's try this. Since I kind of screwed that one up by trying to pry it, let's see what happens if we just dig into one of these buggers. Yeah, okay. So it appears 3/16 might be just big enough to bore into the plug, and then if you tilt the drill, it'll start removing it. So let's see if we can get this pattern down. Okay, so as soon as the motor changes, so you hit a certain point depth-wise into these little plugs that it looks like it starts to turn. As soon as it starts to turn, should be able to pull it straight up. Yeah. I'm still making a mess of these, but I'll probably figure it out soon enough. Yeah, as soon as that... Alright, as soon as the tone of the motor changes, that seems to be when we've broken it free. Yep, just grab the plug and pull. I'll get the shop vac in a minute and we'll clean this up, but making a mess. All right. Jeez. I'm going to get the hang of this at some point. Or not. There it goes. Yep, okay. So when it changes tone of the motor, tilt the drill a little bit, and that seems to grip it, turn it, and remove it. All right, so definitely these plugs are not going back in. And while I'm here, I've removed the 4 that are in the bottom. There are 2 more. There's definitely 2 that are up here near the bar graph. I'm not quite sure if these are plugs as well, right on the edge. So if you look here, there's 1 here, 1 here. Those are definitely plugs. There's a little hole here, but I don't know exactly if that is just molded in or if it's also a screw. My guess is it's probably also a screw. All right, let's at least remove the 2 plugs that we know are definitely plugs. Yep, that was definitely a plug. All right, so that's the one on the left. Yep, there it goes. Okay. Use your pliers to pull out that last plug. Yep, definitely screws under there. So I'm going to take a chance here and maybe go to a smaller drill bit and bore out these 2 on the sides and just see, is there something underneath them? And that's too large too. Let's try this one. This is 1/8. Oh, yep. Okay. So that's the side. It has a flat edge on it. It looks like, for the most part, that might actually just pull out with a screwdriver, but yeah, screw it. I'm just pulling the damn thing out. Yep, so there's definitely 2 screws on these wings on either side of the bar graph. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to do a little cleanup real quick here. Get this plastic out of the way, and then I can start doing a little more dismantling. Next step. Let's get all the screws out of this cartridge. Like I said, condiment container. We're going to use that as our bit bucket. Yep, same screwdriver I used to take apart the pedal. Seems to fit these screws just fine. And they do seem to be magnetic. They're coming out just fine. Yeah, I'm hoping that this is not going to be as tricky as the trap pedal was, because there's not exactly as many moving parts. So it should just be, at least for the base of this thing, straightforward, just to pull the screws out. And I've got, all right, 8 screws out. And yep, I'm going to start at the little connector back there. Yep, pull one side, pull the other, and we're free, almost. Let's be careful here. All right, so inside, you can see, let me move, let's get the drill bits out of the way. Move this over. All right, so inside, here's your battery connections. So there's power, there's ground, be careful. You don't want to move that too much. But what we want to do is, I think, disconnect this guy here. So there's a ribbon cable that goes into this 13-pin connector. So let's gently take these screws out. And those look to be, yeah, these are all the same silver screws. I always like that because that means it makes it easier to put things back together later. Yeah, they're all the same size screws. All right, so the ribbon connector for the cartridge, let's take that off. All right, and it looks like Hasbro did in fact secure this little board inside. Okay, so the rattling I heard earlier, if you saw my last video, I think that might be part of the gearbox for the motor assembly. And let's answer a definitive question, and that is for the power connector. It's, what is this? Looks like a 1.5, which would put this into JST PH territory, I think. JST PH? Yeah, JST PH. It looks like the space between the pins for power is 2 millimeter. And if I measure the actual pins on the board, yeah, so that looks to be correct. Yeah, as best I can tell, it does look like that's JST PH for the power connector. And it looks like we have different sizes in use on this board. So already looking at it, and based on what I've heard, we appear to have a mix of different connectors. So the power and the motor both look like they are the same size. So JST PH for those, which is good because those need to use larger gauge wires because the motor is a higher amperage comparatively to the LEDs device, and so you need more power going to it. I'm going to safely put this aside for the moment. So I don't need the battery bay. This looks very similar to the inside of the Haslab Proton Pack. Inside the D-cell battery compartment was one of these little guys. It's labeled PTC. Positive temperature capacitor? Or, yeah, is that it? I think that's to prevent a possible overload. I don't think that changes the voltage coming out of this thing. It just ensures that if there was a short, it would blow or cut off the power rather than harm the batteries. All right, so I think one thing is when I say like front of the trap, back of the trap, we're going to assume that it's as you're rolling the trap out. So from the point of view of the handle at the back and the bar graph at the front, let's recount some of the connections here. So there's the 6 LEDs on the inside. The back right is yellow. The middle right is blue. The front right is brown. And then coming around, you got the front left. Hang on. This stuff is wired through oddly here. All right. You've got the front left is orange. The middle left is gray. And the back left is purple. Okay, so I'm going to be making a diagram or at least a listing of all the connections. So I will use that information in just a bit. Actually, I'm going to take a quick break, make some notes, and then I'll come back and we'll finish tearing this down. All right, I've made my notes, so I think now it's time. I need to take some of these connectors off, so I'm going to do this very carefully. We're going to take out these. I need to get, I don't know what size these are. I think they are JST ZH, which is a 1.5 millimeter. Oh, come on. I need something to really, these are going to be delicate. So I can tell this is going to be a problem for people wanting to do this. Oh, okay. So very, very carefully grip these connectors and remove them. So let's see. All right, so that seems to be confirmed. JST ZH is the 1.5 millimeter pitch connector. These are tiny. I mean, absolutely tiny. So these, so far, this is the smallest that you've probably seen in the Haslab equipment, the JST PH. These are used heavily in the, not the proton pack, but the wand. They obviously, look, thank you Haslab. Thank you guys for at least doing this. These are all solderless connections. I don't have to snip things off of this board. You guys really did intend for us to potentially mod this, and I gotta give those props. As much as people have complained about certain aspects of this kit, they are trying to make it easy, I think. Because there, I just disconnected all 6 of those LEDs, and I think what I'll do is let's get the rest of this removed, this silver inner box, because this thing is really just kind of taking up space here. This has got a lot of screws on it. All right, so it looks like there's 8 screws, possibly 3. This is number 3 on just one side. Yeah, there's 3. And 4th one up by the motor assembly. All right, look, more screws, all the same size. Again, thank you, Hasbro. Thank you. I will keep saying that, because while not everyone's going to be happy, you at least made it potentially moddable, and I appreciate that. All right, I'll have to come back to that. That one is still in there. All right. Yep, there's the last one. Okay. Okay, so I removed all the screws, but it's still not coming out. What in the hell? All right, I'm curious about this part here. There's a little end piece that has 2 screws in it. I don't know if this is just a bracket or if this is actually holding something in. Looks like it's just a bracket. All right, so that one actually used 2 black screws because it's visible from the outside. They did seem to be consistent about that. If it's on the outside, it's a black screw. If it's on the inside, it's a silver screw. So the bottom, okay, so The back hinges towards the handle. Those aren't really attached to anything. Those look like they just sort of ride in tracks. So as the hinges move in and out, they just slide on tracks. That seems simple enough. Let's see, let's see if I pull these wires off to the side. I think I may need to start dismantling some of the other. Here, let's see, I need, that's not the right size. That's the right size. All right. So I need a hex head screw, or a hex bit. And let's take out some of these decorative screws that might actually be functional screws. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that gives now. Oh, okay, didn't expect that to slide so easily. Okay, they did some wire management under the motor bracket. So let's see here. All right, so we've got the, yeah. So we've got the two switches on the front. We've got the no ghost, no ghost switch. And that is, I explained this in the last video I did because I had seen the innards here. Yeah, this uses a compliant device. There's a little plastic clip on this dial. When you turn it, it compresses like a spring and gives you that resistance. And then when you turn, it pops back out because there's a little detent right there. Now, when you turn it that way, there's a little piece of plastic that blocks and presses down on the momentary switch, which is this white wire going to SW4. So SW4 is the, oh, I got some glue here, hang on. So SW4 is the ghost, no ghost switch. Oh, I need to be careful. I've got, there we go. All right, looks like they had some excess glue on this ribbon cable, and it was really kind of keeping me stuck. All right, now I got a little more wiggle room. I can expand this out. Okay, so the ghost, no ghost switch is SW4. That pops right out. That means the other one, SW3, that is the selector for the bar graph. And it looks like both switch elements, even though the wires are different, all this one's doing is it's either closing the circuit or opening. The other one, kind of the same thing. It's it looks like when you turn it one way, the switch is open. When you turn it the other way, I bet the switch is closed. And let's see, we could test that real quick. Let's do, so right now on this one, yeah, so on the ghost, no ghost, when the switch is depressed, it seems to be closed. Yep, okay. That's what I thought. So the switch is a normally open switch. I think the other one is probably the same. We'll find out. And then I dropped the test lead. Okay, so the other one is the same. It's a normally open switch. So when I turn that, I'm pressing down on the switch. Okay, so now we know what type those are. So these are both normally closed or normally open switches. And this front panel, that's metal. That is definitely metal, which is nice. This is just a straight through. This excuse me, this ribbon cable just goes straight through. So every one of these is just wire to pin, wire to pin, wire to pin, wire to pin. There's nothing fancy about this particular connector. So what we'll have to do later is figure out what in the hell does it mean for each of these. Oh, I wonder, oh crap, did you guys solder or glue this on? Okay, you don't want to do this. I am tempting fate here. I am trying to pull this connector up. I think I'm going to leave it just like that. I've confirmed this doesn't look like it's glued in, but unless you have a reason to remove this ribbon cable, I would not. This one is definitely just needs to stay as is. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave this. I'm not gonna mess with it. I thought it would be useful to pry this up. No, that's just gonna. But what I do want to do is I want to confirm. I actually got some connectors. These were hard to source, but it looks like it might be correct. Yeah. All right. So what I can tell you is these are definitely the 1.5 millimeter JST ZH connectors. So I was able to source a very tiny 13 pin connector and socket. Finding these parts took a lot of searching on eBay and elsewhere to find 13 pin versions. Okay, so that confirms it. Because what I may do eventually is I may make a circuit board that lets me intercept these pins quite easily. But I'm going to see if I can do some of the work without dismantling. So the red pin should be pin, we'll assume this is pin number 1, the one that's got the red. That's usually how the ribbon cables work. So this part faces down, which means when this slots in, it's pin 1 on the left, pin 13 all the way to the right. So we should line up. And then the same thing over here, we've got another ribbon cable. I am going to try to remove this one because it should make it easier for me to test to see what goes through this connector. All right. So there's the 15 pin connector for the bar graph assembly, and that also includes the power LED and the infrared receiver. All right, and then we've got J3 and J4. J3 and J4, let's see, if you are looking at this from above, J3 is the one that is on the, looks like it's on the left door, and J4 is on the rightmost door. So these are the, I know that these are the end stop pins. For now though, I want to see how to get this thing out of here. Okay, it looks like the last thing on here is the motor. So there we go. Let's remove the motor. So that gives us our controller for the inside of the cartridge. All right, so we will set this guy aside for now. We will match that up to the interior of the shell once we get this damn thing apart. So let's take, so there's 2 more screws on the motor. Let's see if we can get those out. Come on. You go in the cup. And let's take out the other one on the motor. I think that's it. Hang on. Yeah. All right. So Remember how I said the back seems to ride on a track? I think the front does as well. Okay, so let's get this guy aside. All right, so FYI, so on this inner cartridge here, you can see there's the 6 LEDs. They're all held in with a little clip that acts as a light pipe. So the light travels through this clear piece of acrylic or plastic, clear plastic. Yeah, that's just not acrylic. That's just plain molded plastic, so it's just clear. So each one of these is just an individual LED. They didn't even do addressable LEDs. They just did 6 individual. Yeah, 6 LEDs. There's little notches cut out in the edges. You can see the scallop. If you look through, I think you could see it on each side. There's 3 on each side. So those little light pipes come through. All right, how do we get the door assembly off? I think we might need to take the rest of the bar graph assembly out. Let's try that. All right, so we got one more screw. Yeah. So these screws are the same as all the others. These might be different. This screwdriver barely fits. Let's look for the next largest screwdriver. Hang on one. Let me see something real quick. Okay, even on these little, so on this little wing to the side here, these are still the exact same size screws. The opening around it is just so tight, I can't use the same screwdriver I've been using, so I had to switch up to a slightly smaller version. Oh, there we go. Ah, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we can drop that out. And let's see, I think someone has already shown that if you're very careful, you can pop this out because you can change some of these pins. Yeah. Oh, is this plastic or metal? I do like that the screws themselves are real. So these are real button head hex screws. They're just a coarse thread. They're not your typical metric. So most of the stuff that we've seen or used for decorations have been metric screws. All right, there you go. Oh, here you go. For those who are curious, there's the bar graph. It's just painted on. It's not actually separated. You could probably print an actual, do an FDM print of a little divider for each of these LEDs. It looks like there is, I'll give you the measurement here. Yeah, you've got just about a millimeter between each of these LEDs. So you could very well make a truly divided bar graph that has that shows individual elements without bleeding, and then just make a nice cover. This thing here, I bet you anything, this paint, similar to the wand, I bet you with some isopropyl rubbing alcohol, you might be able to get that off. All right, yeah, and this is plastic. Not surprising. All right, so what I wanted to do was see how in the hell can you get this out of here. I think, yeah, if you squeeze or spread that apart a little bit, there we go. All right, I'm going to take a small detour. I want to see what some of these pins are. And these are tiny. They're really freaking tiny. All right, so it looks like everybody gets their power off of the same pin. So that is coming up from the red. You've got pin 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so then we've got a negative. Where's the negative go to? All right, so the infrared receiver, not surprisingly, probably looks like it requires 3 connections. Oh, okay. So pin 1, that goes to the IR receiver. Okay, so pins 1, 2, and 3 seem to go to the IR receiver. Ah. Okay, that's the last pin. Oh, that one. All right, so looking at the last pin, that goes to D21. All right, that explains it. So D21 is indeed the power indicator LED. Yeah, so most typical IR receiver diodes have a ground, a 5 volt, and then an output, which I think is basically that's used as a differential to know whether the receiver actually picked up a light signal. So let's just see if pin 1, so we've already established that pin 1 goes to the IR receiver. Let me look for a big fat trace here. Hang on, we got a VCC pin up here. Okay, so VCC definitely goes to pin 4. So we've got a clearly labeled VCC. Okay. All right, I think I'll come back to that. Oh, my guess is we have 6 volts coming into this thing, but I think someone had already found that this might be a chip that runs off of a 3.3 volt signaling. So I think there's a power conversion on here, which would mean that's why the battery is somewhat segregated from the VCC pin that I found. All right, we'll come back to that. I will figure that out eventually. Meanwhile, how do we get you out of here? Okay, so the doors are somewhat spring-loaded. Oh, right there. Now that we've taken the top cover off, we can actually see. There's the springs. So let's see if we can remove the screws that hold the door hinges on. Yep, maybe. Okay. Let's be careful about this. Oh, yeah, that's why. All right, so when you remove the screws for the door hinges, they will fall through. Oh, that's at least labeled. So that one has an L on it. This one has an R on it. And it looks like they make a Y together, and then when they open, I think they're mainly there to help just guide the doors. They don't actually lift the doors. That is still handled by the gear mechanisms and the motor assembly. And I'm gonna wager these are mirror images, so these probably also have an L and an R. 2, L2, R2. Okay, so both lefts are identical. Okay, so the left is relative to the door you're looking at. So when you're looking at it this way, that's the one on the left. When you look at it from this way, that's the one on the left. Okay. right, so I'm not sure how to get these out of here. I would imagine that for most of you, you probably don't need to and probably don't want to remove the doors, but I'm going full bore here because I'm going to want to repaint this. Let's see. How in the hell do we get these?
I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
Okay. That was a little nerve-wracking. Okay. I think I just ended up pushing it far enough that it just popped out. Okay. Doors are off. And there's the rest of the interior. Here's where I really void my warranty. And do I take apart the motor assembly? Yes. Yeah. I want to see what's in here. How did they do this? And let's pray to God there's not a lot of springs in here, because God, I don't want to be putting this thing back together. All right, I've removed the 5 screws. All right, be careful here. I think that's it. Oh, there's 2 tabs. All right, that's 1. That's 2. Oh, there's 3rd on the motor itself. Is that it? Oh, I missed one. I missed a screw. Shit. All right, let's try this again. A little bit at a time. All right, there is a spring mechanism in here for each of the doors. All right, there's one more clip on the motor housing. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to try to be very careful with this because I want this thing to go back together. So what we have here is, not surprisingly, we have just a single DC motor. Looks like it's got a worm gear at the top. So the worm gear turns this gear at the bottom. And it appears, oh, there's a alignment mark. So there's actually marking this gear is right, this gear is left. And let's see. So this gear has a notch cut. So it's pressing on this switch. My guess is, and then there's an alignment, the arrow points over there, and this one, the arrow points over here. So basically they point just to the edge of where those teeth meet and where these teeth meet. Now I can't remember if I had the doors fully open or fully closed. I think they might be fully open at this point, because I think the spring may help to open them, because you want it to open faster. You want it to spring open. All right, so I think we said this one, which was a red socket, is J3. I think I have that listed as when the doors are open. Yes. Okay, so that is, yep. Okay, so this one, this switch has the red socket. That is J3. It is currently depressed because this looks to be in the fully door open position. So this notch on this gear is pressing on the momentary switch, which means when the doors close, this one is going to rotate in. Yeah, I can see. So if the doors were to close, this one's going to rotate this way, and it's going to move off of the switch, whereas this one's going to move over, and it's going to press the switch for the green socket, which is J4. So that's it. That is indeed how this works. So the motor is just a continuous motor. It will keep going until one of these switches tells the controller stop. So basically, as soon as J3 gets closed, that would tell it the doors are open, stop. And then the next time that it needs to run, it would run the motor in reverse. And then when J4 gets triggered, it knows the door is shut, stop. Curious? I hope I don't screw myself up here. Just want to see if there's any markings. DC 6 volts. Okay, so the motor is indeed a 6-volt motor. That would make sense. Okay, so that would make sense why we have the same connector and the same gauge wire, because this is getting the full power from the battery box when needed. Let's see, is there any other markings? It's hard to read the metal. Probably doesn't matter, but knowing that it's 6 volts, now we know that there's not a step down or any conversion that's happening on the motor power. It is strictly, it's just switching. And I'm pretty certain it is this big clunky chip right here. I think this is basically a solid state relay, because the way that it is wired to the motor, I was tracing this on somebody else's photos. When I was tracing, I think that's what flip-flops the polarity, so to make the motor run forward or reverse. All right, so let me close this up before I really screw something up here. Oh man, there's a lot of all the axles have to push their pins back in. All right, so for the record, I have opened this so that you don't have to. No one should ever have to go in this thing. That was nerve-wracking, because I don't want to screw up this assembly. So just FYI, on one side of the door, the socket, the pin is completely rounded. And this is definitely a molded part. That is not a... That doesn't seem to be a dedicated screw or anything like that. That is, this end piece is molded on. These are keyed. There's a flat edge on each one of these spokes. So when it opens the door, it is actually imparting torque using that keyed end. I don't know how well this will come through on the video, but if you look in there, you will see there is definitely a keyed. Yeah, because it doesn't, when I turn it, it actually wants to turn the gears. All right, so I'm going to call it quits on the cartridge, do a little cut, and when I come back, immediately after this, we'll start taking apart the shell. And I think that will be it for the teardown. I don't expect to find quite as much in here based on what pictures I've seen. It's really quite simple. So this should go a lot quicker, methinks. So I'm gonna clean up my space a little bit and do a quick cut, and I'll be right back. Alrighty kids, we're down to the last part, which is the outer trap, so let's do like we did before. I'm gonna grab a drill bit, and we're gonna drill out the sockets so that we can actually get into this thing. So I'm gonna hopefully do this a little quicker. All right, I think I did just figure out so a smaller drill bit. Once you break through the top of the plug, tilt to the side. Ah, damn it. And then of course I screw it up. Maybe that one's just different. All right, so let's try this again. Yeah. So as soon as you break through the top, tilt the drill just a little bit, just so it grabs the side of the plug and you see it start turning. As soon as it starts turning, it should sort of lift up, and that's when you really tilt the drill. And that's when you can grab it and remove the plug entirely. Yep, pops right out. Okay. All right. These two in the back are just absolutely little bitches. All right. I don't know if these are just made out of different depth. All right, really a pain in the ass. All right, that's it. So those are out. Let's do the disassembly. No disassemble, Johnny 5. Input, Stephanie, input. All right, let's get these. Sorry, that's the other movie I grew up on. Before I die, I swear to God, I'm going to try to build at least some scale model of Johnny 5. Got a small print that I did. I'm not happy with it. It was one of the first things I 3D printed, but he's sitting on a shelf. I really want to do one that's like the remote control Johnny 5 from Short Circuit 2. Just one that actually moves around, remote control. That'd be fine. All right, the 4 on the front came out just fine. These 4 in the back are a little bit more of a pain in the... Took us... It's kind of like the rest of the other part of the trap. The screws all seem to be the same size. But these mounted back here in the battery box just really... They sit a little deeper, so you are going to need to switch up to a different set of... a different screwdriver. All right, let's see. Do we take the sides off? I think we'll take the sides off. Let's. I think that's the wrong size. Let's switch out. Good grief! All right. So let's take out some of these fake screws, because I know for a fact this thing pops out entirely. I don't have to take this one out, but I want to get the metal plates off. All right, so this one is just fake. So this one, I think I mentioned in my last video. So this one gets its clickiness from a compliant device inside, has these little pins. They swipe or wipe across these little semicircles. And so based on the position of, looks like when this is perfectly up and down, this is almost directly across. Not quite. It's offset a little bit. But yeah. So the idea is that as you turn the dial, it's going to make contact with one or more of these inner traces, and that's what's going to trigger the different ghost effects. And yes, once again, I'm using a new container for the outer shell, and I'm labeling it. So I have all my screws for the outer trap versus the inner trap. Makes it a lot easier later for me to put things back together. And don't worry, it looks like most of these screws, again, all these socket head, coarse socket head screws are once again all the same size. So it doesn't matter where they go back, they're all going to be the same. All right. Oop, 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 oop. All right, we'll take out the fake resistor. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay. That gets held in just by it being on here. Okay. Well, that's useful to know, because I think somebody had pointed out if you paint the inside of this black, that helps with, you know, if you are going to keep the fake resistor. Yeah. I really wish that was metal. We'll get a heat sink, aluminum heat sink, and cut it up. Okay, so in order to get this off, I'm going to need a bigger hex bit. This is not the right size. It is like slightly too big. I think it's a imperial, not metric. Yeah, it's a 7/64. It's probably should be a metric. Ooh, that really is substantial. Jeez. And they said those side panels were weighty. They weren't kidding. I'm just making sure. Yeah, I'm still recording. Okay. Oh, I've got one oddball screw, and I think so. This. Yeah. So I think I may. So each of these goes on each side. So these are this is what keeps those little side pieces on. So when you push through, see how they capture? So when you push these through at the dead center, that's your compliant mechanism that holds these bars in place. That's it. Just the tiny little spring action on these. All right, so we'll take those out. And yeah, so we've got two little switches here. My guess is they use a common ground. Top switch goes to white. That means that the bottom switch goes to red, and that is, yep, that is right. So from the back view, White goes to that top trace. Red goes to the bottom trace, and then black looks like a common ground. All right. Oh, did we? Yeah. Okay, there's the side panels off. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. That's most likely the speaker connection. So let's get the rest of this thing apart. There we go. Yep, that's the speaker. And let's see, we've got, same as before, we've got the ribbon cable that goes to the 13 pins on the blade connector. Pop that off. And that seems to wrap around the rumble motor. All right, let me try and extract this. I'm gonna pull the plug on this one. Yeah, these look like JSTPH. The rotary encoder on the side is a JST XR. That's the one of the super tiny. It's a 3-pin. So that matches up to the type of connector we've seen in the cartridge. All right, so there's the rotary encoder. We'll pop that out. At this point, I'm just like, screw it. Just take all the pieces out and make it easier. All right, we've got the 3-pin connector here. And I bet you this is going to be the same as the trap pedal. Yep, easy. Get it started and just unscrew the nut. There we go. Got the nut off. Oh, this one came out much easier. Okay, same diff. I would expect this to be the exact same. So same thing as before. It's 3 pins, 1, 2, and 3, where again 1 is power, positive, 2 is ground, and 3 is that signal line. I'm trying to get the audio cable out of here because I can't seem to disconnect this bottom section. And there is a square hole. Let's see if this connector is rectangular, but it is just large enough. That's right. It goes in the square hole. Okay, now we get into now you're probably like, but you're not showing me the connections. Yeah, I'm not showing where the connections are going, but what I can tell you is based on the size and the color of each one of these. So this is yellow. There is a connector in here that is a solderless connector that's yellow. There's one that's white. The one for the, so this is 3 pins and it's red. Again, kudos to Hasbro for at least giving us these color-coded and non-solder connections. Based on the complexity of the trap, it may have just been a necessity for them to not have to solder everything in and then install the controller. This is probably a lot easier for the machines to come in here and push down on these connectors. All right. So this one, so we've got two boards in here. We have the controller itself, And we've got, got the controller, and then we've got the board that has the LED and the switch on it, the two-way switch. But what we also have is a wire coming through from the handle, which is the service button, the hidden button. I forgot about that. All right, so let me undo that and pull that. Okay, so this guy here. So remember on the cartridge board, this ribbon cable is 1-to-1. It goes straight through to each of the pins on the blade connector. This one looks like half may flip to the other side. I don't know why. Oh, they must have done that on purpose. So when you're looking at the back of the trap, the back of the cartridge, pin 1 is on the left. That's the red. But when it comes through, it would be reversed. And I think they wanted it. Look at both of these. If you look at the red stripe, if you were to look at both of these boards, so it reverses them. Yep, that's what they did. So inside the trap, they reversed this connect. They flipped everything around on this controller, or on, sorry, when it comes into the base of the trap, they flip around the pins so that it lines up again, and this red stripe again becomes pin number 1. Okay, so that does make it easier to map everything through later. We can just say pin 1 is pin 1, regardless of where it came from. It always ends up being pin 1. Oh, it looks like, I can already tell, in order to get this inner control board out with the switch, I have to take the nut and the lock washer off of the switch. So I'll pop those out, and these should come through. But first, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these fake screws out of the battery box, because like I said, I'm probably going to repaint this thing, and this just makes it easier to have everything removed. Plus, I want to take a look at this handle real quick. Okay. And there's a spring mechanism in here that is used for the release lever. I'm just going to take it apart. Just want to take out it has a spring and a little wide cap screw. It's the only ones in there. I'm going to take that out, and there is grease on here, so I'm going to put that off to the side. Now, this guy comes right out, and so I don't lose it, I'm going to put the lock washer and the nut right back on there. All right, so we got that, and pop this little ridiculous little red cap for the light. That comes out. And it looks like there's two of those screw covers on the side. There's 2 screws underneath. Hang on. Let's see if these, okay, this might answer the question of how robust is the handle. If I take these 2 screws out, it looks like that might be what holds the handle in. And yeah, there's a rectangular hole for the service. There we go. Okay. All right. I can already tell. There is a spring mechanism in here. I don't think I want to mess with it. So I may just do a separate paint job for the handle and just avoid taking it apart. It's also covered in oil from the spring, the release mechanism. But yeah, so the momentary switch is attached to this blue wire. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it. It's fine. One thing I do want to do is these spring clips that are used for the I'm gonna tape these down. I don't want anything to get in there. So I'm just gonna throw some gaff tape right on top of those as is. That way if I spray paint this thing, I don't gum up the works, because we don't want that. Let's see, there we go. Because nothing else, I mean, there's no other moving parts in here. That's it. This is now just a shell. I'll set that aside. All right, so we're just down to this guy. Let's take the screws out of the vibration motor. All right, you know what? I'm not gonna mess with this guy. It's the bottom of the battery box. I really don't think, since this comes apart as its own thing, I think what I'll do is, if I'm gonna paint this, I'll scratch off this useless FCC statement. Who needs that? We'll scratch that off and we'll just go with covering it, and then I'll just paint over it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, let's see. What can we do here? We've got one. These screws are different. These are shorter. Just FYI. So I bet you these 4 that hold the wheels on are just the same size. All right, so those 4, I'm still going to throw them in the cup. We'll just have to remember that those screws are separate. Oh, I need to take off the V-hook. The V-hook screws are coming through because there's another false bottom on this. In order to get the wheels out, you got to take off the second false bottom, if I remember correctly. All right, so I may just keep these with the V-hook. All right, so that guy's there. Let's see, what else am I missing? All right, so this is molded plastic down here. How the hell do these wheels come out? Where's the... Oh, there's a split. Let's take the speaker out. I think the speaker might be the last thing holding it in. And these look to be the same short screws as used over the wheels. Let's take that guy. Oh, okay. Oh, what a piece of crap. All right, let's... There's a part where we find out if we screwed up or not. Okay, just about. I mean, that's close enough. I think once you take the flange into consideration. So this is a 50 millimeter. Yes, 5 centimeter, 50 millimeter speaker. This is Visiton. For those of you who are familiar with the replacement that we found for the Haslab wand to work with the GP Star kit, we had settled on Visiton. Seems to give a pretty good full range speaker. Look at the quality difference on this. This is a much beefier cone. I mean, for the size, it's much lower profile. The problem that I can see is I think we might have to do a quick 3D print. Do a quick 3D print so that this fits in here and doesn't move. This is a 8 ohm speaker. This is a 0.25, sorry, 16 ohm, 0.25 watt. So the idea is we will probably add on a, put a better amplifier in here with a better speaker. The other thing I've got is a transducer speaker. I'm going to try using that in a different capacity to see if I can get better results. But yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll hook up all the electronics directly to their controllers, make sure everything still works, and then while the outer pieces are getting painted, I will work on mapping out all of the internals. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. We still have one more piece to take apart, except I can't quite figure out what am I missing. All the screws are out. The wheels, there it goes. Push on the wheels and it pops apart. So pushing on the wheels pushes on the axle. Pushing on the axle pushes up the inner part. There we go. All right, so that's, well, those are heavy. I think if you took these and the plates, that's most of the weight of this thing. Oh, there was one other metal pedal part. It was the front of the trap with the the weight and the motor. There you go. So if you take all the metal parts, that is probably most of the weight of the trap. You know, for all you folks who did metal, said, I'm going to put metal parts in my proton pack. Why is my proton pack heavy? Well, that's why. Not making fun, I'm just saying. That's all right, so that's it. So that's I think everything broken down. We've got all the parts, everything's out. Alrighty, so I don't think we're going to end up having time to do the PKE meter at this point, just because this is a lot. This is a lot to take apart, so I'm mostly going to just do the have this focus on the trap. All right, this is going to be a really long video. I apologize, but hey, real-time teardown. So until next time, have fun taking apart your ghost trap. Enjoy.